A tenant crashed into my building last week, and although it wasn't catastrophic, it's still gonna cost me. But the worst part is I could have prevented this with a $350 fix. I just installed bollards when I built the property. Today I'm gonna walk you through what happened, why I skipped out on the bollards in the first place, and why I'm putting in the expensive ones, the ones that go into the cement, into ground, and not those cheapy bolt-on kind. I'll also share with you another mistake, my lights, and why that mistake cost me $3,500. The point of this video isn't to vent, but to give you actual lessons and real life experiences of what it's like to buy, own, operate, and build your own self-storage facility. When I first built this facility, my goal and effort was to get this thing online as quick as possible. Get tenants through the door that they could start helping me pay the expenses of the property, including the mortgage. So I decided that I needed to focus on things that would get my doors opened quickly. New doors, new systems, a new fence, security systems and gates and what have you. That's where I decided to focus my efforts. I knew I needed to have bollards on the corners of the buildings, and the bollards, their purpose is to protect the building from damage from large trucks and other vehicles that might back into it. But honestly, I didn't really know what I didn't know. I didn't know where to get bollards. It wasn't something that I could find at the Home Depot easily. I didn't know where specifically to install them, if they needed to be a certain distance from the wall. I didn't know who to install them. Do I just call a regular contractor, or is there somebody that was specialized in this kind of work? Perhaps somebody that also does pavement and striping. All of these things I didn't really know where to find the answers. So what I opted to do is just kind of push that to the back burner and focus on other things that would get me revenue, a lot sooner. This wasn't the first mistake that I made trying to go fast. The first mistake I made was the lighting. Although I did install photocell lights when I built the facility, and the photocell simply means that there's a little sensor on the light specifically, and it turns the light on when it gets to dusk, and then it turns it back off when it gets to dawn. And I chose the photocell because I didn't want to have an on-site timer that needed to be reset as the time changed, things along those lines. And when you're trying to run a facility remotely, which I am, eliminating on-site tasks wherever possible is the name of the game. So, getting back to this, I thought I was doing the right thing by putting in the photocell lights, but unfortunately a couple months in, we got a complaint from one of the neighbors saying that the facility was just simply too bright at night. Everything was too lit up. So I called the county and tried to figure out what it was specifically that I needed to install. The county was very great to help me. We are in an unincorporated city, so we default to the county, but if your facility is in a local city or a jurisdiction other than a county, maybe perhaps a local city, then that's who you would have to reach out to. And it was there that I found out that I needed the photocell, which I had, but I also needed two other things. Number one, I needed the lights to be facing downward as opposed to facing outward. And that one threw me a little bit. I understand the idea. The idea is you don't want to be shining lights into your neighbors, especially if you're next to a residential district, of which I am. But all the commercial lights that I was able to look for at the local big box, they all seemed to point out, and everybody else, all my neighbors seemed to point out as well. So I had some trouble finding these downward pointing lights. And then the third option, or the third thing that the county required me to do, was make sure that the lights were motion censored. This one I'm not super stoked about because it means that at night the facility is completely dark unless somebody walks through or there's some motion that's detected and then the lights turn on. I'd rather them to be on all night long, but I don't write the code. Now, here's the silver lining in this whole situation. The tenant who hit the building actually reached out and offered, or they reached out and admitted it first and then offered to pay, which this never happens, but two things I think made the difference here. First, I'm super hands-on during move-ins. It's a small site, I'm still early in my journey, so I kind of want to hear every complaint, every weird situation, really every question that comes across. I make it a point to talk to the tenants directly. I give them my number. That way, if something like this happens, they don't feel like they're just calling some random call center. They know that there's a human behind the place. Second, the crash happened right in front of a security camera. Now, realistically, I probably wasn't going to dig through hours of footage to ID a dent in the stucco, but just knowing that the camera caught it, I think that's all it took to deter a hit and run. So in this situation, I'm going to say the cameras did their job. So let's talk about the fix. I finally got these bollards installed, and I did it right. I found these powder-coated steel ones on Amazon. I'll leave the link in the description below. They're 58 inches tall, 5.5 inches wide, and they've got this reflective tape for nighttime use. These ones, as you can see, they're installed in concrete. They sit about 48 inches off the ground, which is the standard height. Each one of the bollards themselves cost $146.97 before tax. Concrete was another $10, and I paid $180 per bollard for installation. So the total cost came in just under $350 each. And like I said, these are real bollards set in concrete. They're permanent. These things aren't going anywhere, and they're strong enough, obviously, to stop a U-Haul. You can also see we got the wall patched up all nicely, and bollards are installed, ready to go. Could I have gone with the cheaper ones? Definitely. You can buy the surface mountain bollards. They come with 4 holes, and you just drill them right into the concrete. You drill the holes, and then you bolt on some concrete anchor bolts is what I believe they're called. They're a lot cheaper. You get 4 of them for about $150. Comes with all the hardware. All you need to do is drill the holes and bolt them down. Unfortunately, they don't really offer, in my opinion, they don't really offer all that much protection. They're really more of a suggestion. They look good, but I'm not going to trust them to stop a vehicle, let alone like a U-Haul. And look, this facility here, I plan to own forever. I don't need to cut corners for just 2 bollard installs. I'll happily spend another $100, $700 for a permanent solution that protects my asset here. I also opted for thicker, taller bollards. I could have saved $25 or $50 going with the smaller ones. But if I ever needed to replace one or repair the building again, a $50 savings isn't going to really mean much. I'd rather invest in this and get this done right the first time. I plan to add a few more bollards once we finish our expansion and finalize the buildings, but for now we're just doing the 2 where they're most needed. I might even add an extra one here to protect my gate. But this is really part of my philosophy. Build what you can afford and then fix and improve your property over time and play the long game, really. When I opened, I was really just trying to get this property online and live as quick as possible, which isn't really ideal. It can lead to mistakes like this one with the lights or the stuccos. But hopefully you guys can learn from my mistakes. And if I can help you avoid a $3,000 lighting mistake or a stucco repair from a missing bollard, I count that as a win. I'm still learning with every project. Hopefully this video gives you something useful to think about. Maybe you more experienced guys can kind of laugh at my mistake. But if you've made an expensive mistake at your storage facility, I want to hear about it. Why don't you drop it in the comments? Let's make this a place where newer operators can learn what to do, what not to do. And if you're building your first facility right now, please do me a favor. Install these bollards. You'll thank yourself later.